Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm going to be doing the 14.1B Midlane Tierlist. So if you enjoy the content, like, subscribe, and let's get into it. To begin with, this is going to be after the hotfix patch. They have made a lot of adjustments. So some champions might move further and some champions might move less than I project within this tier list. But for the most part, take this as like a very much like a baseline of where champions will most likely lie. I am accounting for some of their more niche builds. The likes of Vladimir isn't primarily building Riftmaker. However, Riftmaker Vladimir is by far and away his best variation, and for that I will put him in the tier accordingly. Let's go down in alphabetical order. So, to begin with, Ari is going to be in my B tier. She's kind of underperforming at the moment. The Luden's companion isn't performing as well as Luden's Tempest once did. She doesn't really have the same options as before, and her builds just aren't as strong, so she finds herself in the B tier. Akali, doing better than, doing worse than what people anticipated. She is a very good Storm Surge abuser. However, after this item has been nerfed, I reckon she will sit around the A tier. She's not quite able to make it to the S tier. If anything, she's closer towards the B tier, as people are struggling to pilot her in certain matchups, and with the item which she very much relies on being nerfed, it definitely does hurt her. Akshan is going to be my first S plus tier champion, so Akshan is performing very well at the moment. A lot of the items work really nicely on him. He can opt into some lethality variations if he really wants to. The Kraken Slayer variation still works quite nicely as well. Just kept a lot of his good options and performs very well with the current item system. Anivia is working really well with Roa, finds herself in the S tier. Anivia tends to find herself around this place. She doesn't end up being nerfed or adjusted, even though she does stay on the strong side, as most of the time this is where Riot likes to leave her. Annie is going to also find herself in the S tier. Also a very good Liandry's and Malignant abuser. She will be very strong here. Asol not performing as well as a lot of people anticipated. He is struggling with some of the item options. Liandry still looks to be the best way to go alongside a Rylai. You can kind of keep these two options. He just struggles a bit with powering some of his later items, as they tend to be more expensive. The likes of Zonya and Rabadon's still being very expensive items, just hurts him a decent amount. Azir really benefited from this patch, actually. Really good abuser of Nash's, and Nash's being a bit cheaper and a bit more accessible really helps his champion, so he finds himself also in the A tier. Honestly, towards the high end of the A tier. If you're good at piloting Azir, consider him borderline OP. Cassiopeia finds herself in the S tier, also a really strong Roa user, being able to make use of the Eternity passive really well. Corki got hotfix buffed. He was very much underperforming around the C tier. People were still kind of trolling his builds. He's very much still should have been going Triforce. But even with the buffs and Triforce being a bit weak on him, he only just manages to kind of scrape into the B tier. Diana was originally my S plus tier. Gets knocked down a peg with Hextech Rocket Belt and Storm Surge both being nerfed. Still a very good champion in the mid lane. Echo also in the S tier. He is a very good Lich Bane abuser. Can opt into Storm Surge later on. Can use the likes of Rocket Belt. Has strong options. A couple of them did get nerfed, but he still very much finds himself in the S tier. Fizz was in the S plus tier. He was probably the strongest mid laner coming out of this patch. He did receive direct nerfs towards his W and Q, losing about 15% AP ratio in total. Alongside that, he also lost a bit of power with Rocket Belt and Storm Surge being nerfed, so I reckon he will find himself around the S tier. Galio also finds himself around the high end of the A tier, has some options, can abuse Storm Surge if he really wants to. Roa can work on him. He just has options and encounters a lot of the strong mid laners at the moment. Hui was in the D tier, now up to the C tier, had a bug fairly early onto the patch which got addressed fairly quickly. His E gained 50 damage. They also gave him a bit more baseline durability and increased the radius of his ultimate. Does this suddenly give him enough power to really jump the tier list? Not really. He was very much struggling and the only D tier pick. He now finds himself in the C tier. Aurelia, still strong with the likes of Bork and Wit's End, can work well as a mid laner, finds herself in the A tier. Jace struggles a bit more with the new Eclipse. It doesn't work as well on him. The likes of Youmuu's, and Youmuu's is probably his optimal option at this point, I imagine. It was strong on him in the past, with lethality kind of being the way you want to go, being more incentivized with it being 1-to-1. Youmuu's is, I imagine, the best option here. So it'd be something like Youmuu's into Manamune. You're still going to want to look up to pick up like Grudge at some point, so you might want to opt into things like an Edge of Night. He's just not performing as well as he was on the previous patch, finds himself in the B tier. Kassadin is doing alright, he finds himself in the A tier. Katarina, strong abuser of a lot of the new items, Rocket Belt, Nashers, Storm Surge, can utilize all of them, finds herself in the A tier. Honestly, like, if you want to pick up Katarina and learn this champion, now is the best time to do it. She's her strongest spot for newer players. I imagine she might end up getting nerfed, but for the most part, in a very good spot at the moment. So yeah. KO did receive nerfs, but stays within the S tier. The likes of Nashers and Riftmaker didn't get touched, and she only lost a bit of attack speed. Her ratio for attack speed got nerfed slightly. I believe it went from 1% per 100 AP to 0.5% per 100 AP. Not a huge nerf, so still finds herself in the S tier. LeBlanc received a bunch of adjustments, mostly focused around nerfing her AD build and buffing up her AP build. She will stay around the B tier. Her build will very much shift back to being AP focused. The likes of Storm Surge, I imagine Ludent's Companion will be a strong option on her. Yeah. Lissandra was in the A tier. I was kind of because she could abuse the likes of Storm Surge. Once again, a lot of champions you'll hear me mention are good Storm Surge users. Just not going to be performing as well without the items being nerfed. Lux received some direct buffs, pushing her up to the A tier. Was kind of sat around the B tier. Now definitely a solid A tier option. Malphite is a good answer when you need him as like an armor AP option. I wouldn't blind Malphite. He tends to be pretty weak when you opt into that route, but definitely good if you're playing against the right matchups. Malzahar sits within my B tier, not as solid as he once was. The loss of Lost Chapter on Leandri's really hurts him, but he still has access to the likes of Rylai. He still opts into his Zhonya's, even though it's a bit more expensive. Just hurts him generalistically. Neferi was in the C tier. Honestly, getting close to the A tier. However, most people are still trolling her build. She should be going Eclipse, not the likes of Profane Hydra, which a lot of people are doing. Nico was really strong pre-Rocket Belt Shadow Flame nerfs. Even though they have been nerfed, I imagine she stays within the S tier. Orianna definitely took a big hit with the itemization changes. Finds herself in the B tier. Pantheon also took a big hit with the itemization changes. Is looking at something like Eclipse Shojin as being his main core options. Definitely weaker though, so finds himself within the B tier. Once upon a time was an S tier option for sure. Kiana actually doing pretty well at the moment. Honestly, finds herself within the A tier. Plus Hubris being buffed. If you're snowballing on this champion, she is giga oppressive. I definitely also recommend, like alongside Katarina, picking this champion up if you want to learn it now. It is the best time to do it. Rumble finds himself within the S tier. This is an interesting one as he is a hard to pilot champion. I would not recommend first timing Rumble within ranked. If you do have a lot of games on him, you understand the functionality of the champion. You can abuse things like Rocket Belt, Leandri, Storm Surge. You can just run games over. But you do definitely want to put a lot of time into this champion. He is pretty hard to pilot. Moving on, Rise. So Rise is also going to find himself in the B tier. Can still use the likes of Roa. Still works quite well with the item. Just struggles later on into his build path. But does have the likes of Archangels he can pick up. Just not doing as well as he once was. Singed is also going to be in my S+ tier. They did nerf him. He was unbelievably overpowered. Something like a 58% win rate. The 10% AP ratio nerf on his Q does definitely hurt him. Does it suddenly knock him down with enough win rate to move him out of the S+ tier? No. Like, this champ is so strong. If you can play Singed and you understand how this champion functions, if you can like understand proxying, you focus, well, you get the CS and you don't struggle as much in laning phase, then yes, I would very much recommend picking up Singed. Playing Singed first time can be hard. He is a very unique playstyle, so I would keep that in mind. If you're looking for something a bit easier, there are other options within the S tier, and there are the likes of Vladimir, where I would very much recommend people pick this champion up. He is very much sleeper under the radar at the moment. But yeah, moving on to Swain. Not too bad. The amount of damage in the game does make it harder for him later on. He does almost fall off at this point, which is weird considering Swain was always considered a good scaling option. I would really recommend the likes of Rylai, Malignance, and then Leandri, Zhonya, Riftmaker as kind of like his core build. Swain is my main champion on this patch at the moment. I really enjoy playing him. But there are better options. He is still very strong off 2 though. Good team fighter, good mid-game champion. Silas is going to find himself within the A tier. He is going to be a bit lower down. He's not performing as well as he did last season. The new options aren't as good, but still not performing too badly. Definitely an A tier pick. You do need to pick him a bit more accordingly to ultimates now though. Syndra actually didn't come out of this patch too badly. Does also find herself within the A tier. Talia, also an A tier option. Talon is going to find himself in the B tier. However, this is not taking into account the Profane Hydra buffs and the Hubris buffs, where these items might make him incredibly oppressive. It'll be interesting to see, but for the moment, I'm being cautious, putting him in the B tier. That's where I had him beforehand. But yeah, just be aware, this champion might suddenly like lunge up a couple of tiers if he ends up being really strong off these item spikes. Tristana is going to find herself within the B tier. Not doing too badly. Definitely a better bot laner. Has with the shift they did not too long ago where they gave her a bit more armor, took away some of her magic resistant base health, definitely hurt her a lot more in the mid lane, but still not a bad option. If you can play her well, then she is a very good sieger and a good AD option. Twisted Fate, really strong at the moment, has the likes of Lichbane and Roa, which are both very good items on him, can pick up Zonya, can pick up Rabadon, can pick up Storm Surge. These items all do work on him. Veigar, not doing too hot at the moment, takes a bit too long to come online, but if you do get online with Veigar, he can hit like a truck. He always has done, always will do. Very much, yeah, if you can get the scaling going, then he's good. Vel'Koz is performing decently, like not too bad. It's kind of skewed towards the fact that he's very much a one-trick champion. You don't see a huge amount of new players picking up Vel'Koz. He is still a decent Luden's companion user. You can opt into things like Shadow Flame. Once again, another Storm Surge user. He can pick up other options like Rabadon, Zonya. Doesn't have the greatest AP ratios, but it is an option there. Finds himself within the B tier. However, this could be subject to like moving down up within the B tier, depending on just how one-tricked he is. Vex is performing decently. Once again, still a snowballing champion. You pick up the likes of Luden's companion, Storm Surge, and if you can run away with the game, you run away with the game. If you can't, then you really do struggle. She needs to be ahead of the curve. Medjay being 100 gold cheaper does definitely help her. She really wants this item. Victor, not doing too badly, but also not performing as well as a lot of people were expected. I'm pretty sure he is getting buffed next patch. I did see something about his R doing a bit more damage and his W having a level scaling per level slow. So that'll be interesting to see. Vladimir is going to be the other champion in the S plus tier. He is very strong at the moment. I've spoken about him a couple of times. Riftmaker Vladimir is the way to go. Please like look at the yeah, just build this item, give it a try, see how it feels. It's better than like Demonics, and it has the health to AP conversion, which he really values. There's also a lot of reasons why this item is good on him. Give it a try. Xerath not performing as well with the new items. Luden's companion should be like the premier item on him, but it's not producing the win rate of some of the old mythics on him, like the likes of Luden's Tempest, Neandries, stuff like that, just not performing as well. Yasuo and Yone, honestly, both of them. Yasuo falls within the B tier, still a solid option. Kraken, IE, has some durability options, finds himself the B tier, whereas Yone's a bit stronger, finds himself with the within the A tier. Same kind of build variation, just lost access to Hullbreaker, so it isn't as durable. Honestly, the same goes for both of them. Without Hullbreaker and a bit more durability later on to the game, they can really struggle with the amount of burst. With burst going down though, I can see these champions rising up a bit, especially with some other options being nerfed. Zed finds himself within the B tier. Well, Zed has been buffed quite heavily. 35% AD ratio on his ultimate, W going down by 1 second at all ranks, and his E gaining like 30 damage, I believe, at max rank. The problem was Zed was really weak. Losing Ravenous Hydra and a lot of CDR options definitely hurt him. It meant he's had to go back to more lethality options. But with these buffs, I definitely do see him being back on the radar as a good option. Sits within high B tier, might be pushed up to A later on this patch or next patch. Ziggs, just not performing great. Luden's Companion just isn't as good as a lot of the other options he once had. Struggles with second item options. I'm pretty sure Archangels might just be his best performing there, whereas like previously you could opt into things like Shadow Flame, a Rabbit on the second, stuff like this. And Zoe falls within the beta as well. Once again, Luden's Companion just isn't as good as the old Mythic options. Makes sense. They want more build diversity rather than Luden's Companion as being best in slot on a lot of champions. They want to open it up. However, a lot of these champions are just underperforming at the moment, whereas they once had like Luden's Tempest, which gave them a lot of win rate. Overall, those are my mid lane thoughts. Some of these are subject to change over the patch, as this is a fresh patch. We've already received a hotfix. Lots of things are changing. Lots of new builds are being invented. And it'll be interesting. I will cover all the other tier lists in later videos. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.